Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. So today, now that I have redone my bookshelves, I am going to do a full bookshelf tour. I'm going to go through all the books that I've read on my shelves, all the ones that I haven't. I'm going to go through, I have right here my TBR cart. Half the books just fell, but that is fine because I've cleared off my TBR cart some because I used to have so many random books on here. But now these are actually books that are on my TBR. There's some books on here that I haven't read yet either, but I just wanted them to have space on my shelves. So they're here. I'm going to pull some of them down pretty soon to put them on my TBR cart. The ones that are on my TBR cart are ones that don't have a spot because a lot of them are like the first book in a fantasy series that I don't have the rest of the series yet. I don't fully love how my books are organized, but this is kind of what I'm working with. I feel like in order for them to be exactly how I want, I need to have a little bit more space because I have a few genres kind of mixed. But overall, I feel like it's mostly my fantasy books on this side, and then this side is like everything else. With that being said, let's just jump right into this little tour of my bookshelves. But starting with the top of my shelves, I always just have my little collection of like stuffed animals up here. I would love to keep them somewhere else and have different things up there, but my cat loves to view those as toys. That's kind of what's up there. Like I said, mostly Pokemon. I have a lot of random little Pokemon decor. They're just these like little like figurines that you build. They don't take long, but sometimes it's a nice little thing to like help my brain unwind. So I have a number of those on my shelves. But going into my bookshelves, this top one is kind of home of my favorite books. Up here I have my special editions of Crooked Kingdom and Six of Crows, and that is one of my all-time favorite series. And then here I have, I don't even know what this book is called, Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I haven't read any of her books yet. I just saw this one at the store and absolutely loved it and knew I wanted to have it. And then I also, you'll see, I have these little gnomes that I've painted with friends. I have them over and we just paint gnomes. Then up here I have my Throne of Glass collection. This is my favorite series of all time, and I knew going into it that it was going to be a favorite, so that's up here. So then going down a shelf I have my hardcover fantasy series. So up here I've read all of them except for Chain of Gold. And then down here I have my Crescent City series. I've read the first two and I still have my bookmark in the third one. I'm like 50 pages in and I don't know if I'm going to go back to that one. We'll just kind of see. It's such a big book that it's a large commitment, but I have read the first two and I didn't hate them. I don't know if urban fantasy is for me, so I'm not sure. But then I have Ninth House and Hellbent. These ones I think are like more like dark academia than fantasy, but they kind of fit here. I haven't read either of these. And then I have Five Broken Blades. You'll see a common theme is I have a lot of book of the month books that I haven't read. So then I have my Fourth Wing collection. I have two versions of the first book, and then Iron Flame and Onyx Storm. I haven't finished Onyx Storm yet. It's another one that I honestly don't know if I'm gonna finish. I just found myself not really caring what happened, and I'm hoping it was just that I wasn't like in the mood for it, that I'll be in the mood for it, because I kind of felt the same way with Iron Flame. Came back to it and ended up really enjoying it, so I'm just giving Onyx Storm some time before fully saying that I don't like it. And then I have Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. This is another one of her books that I haven't read, but I feel like I'm going to read this one fairly soon because her second book in the series just came out and this one's not connected to all of her other books. So I feel like this is one that I could just start and just read one of her books. So then I have over here my Fairy Loot books. I have 3 of those. I was a part of that for a few months. I have The Ones We Burn, One Dark Window, which I have read, and then I have Belladonna with these really beautiful sprayed edges. So then I got a hardcover of Foxglove to match the artwork on the front of Belladonna. So then I'm gonna go over to the top shelf over here so that I can just keep my camera at one height. But this is kind of my mostly paperback mystery and thriller shelf, but I do have a few like general fiction mixed in here as well. But I just have this little plant from IKEA that sits on the top shelf here, and behind that I have my Jennifer Lynn Barnes stack. I have read both of the first 2 in the Inheritance Game series. I didn't read the 3rd one because I was waiting for it to come out in paperback and just kind of never came back to it. But then I got invested in the Natural series by her, and I've read the first 2 of that. I need to read book 3 and 4. And then once I'm done with those, I'll probably jump back into the Inheritance Games. And then I have Beartown by Frederick Bachman that I haven't read. It was on a TBR earlier this year, and I just didn't get a chance to get to it. And then I have The Nightingale, which I have read, and I gave it 5 stars. I loved this book so much. I have Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. I read this one a few years ago. I feel like I haven't heard anyone really talk about it. It was a good book. It wasn't my favorite, but I definitely enjoyed it. And then That's Not by Name by Megan Lawley. I read this one at the start of the year and really enjoyed this one. So I have her new release, No Place Left to Hide, on here as well. And then I have The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I haven't read this one yet, but I saw the cover and I was intrigued by it, and so I picked that up. And then I have a couple of Stephen King books that I haven't read. They're from my boyfriend's grandma. She was kind of going through her book collection trying to get rid of some, and so I picked up those 2 from her, as well as Gone Girl. And again, haven't read it. I haven't really dived that deep into like thrillers. I usually stick with like more like mystery, but I feel like eventually I could see myself jumping into some thrillers, so I feel like that might be my goal for fall. So then I have the first book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. I haven't read this one yet, but I've heard really good things about it, so I feel like that's another one that once I'm done with the Naturals, I'll jump into that mystery like series. And then I have my Frida McFadden stack here that I'm actually missing one that my friend is reading right now. I have Never Lie as well, which is my favorite book by her. But then I have The Inmate and The Coworker, which are the 2 I haven't read yet, so they'll be on probably upcoming TBRs. I have The Crash, The Boyfriend, The Housemaid's Secret, and The Housemaid is Watching. Read all of those ones. Of those, I think my favorites are probably The Housemaid and The Boyfriend, because The Crash was good, it wasn't my favorite, and I didn't love the continuations of the Housemaid series. I feel like the first one was really good. I was intrigued the whole time with that one. The second one was like, I was pleasantly surprised by, but the third one I think I gave like 2.5 stars. The first couple books that I have over here are my dark romance. That I don't usually get into dark romance too much. I don't love a lot of spice in my books, and most dark romances are very spice heavy. So I have Promises and Pomegranates, which I didn't hate. It was definitely out of my comfort zone, so I picked up Vipers and Virtuosos, but I've never read it. And then I have Hooked by Emily McIntyre that I also haven't read. That is like a Peter Pan retelling, but it's like a dark romantasy, I think. Not entirely sure. And then I have my medal from my Run Disney race that I just kind of balance here. So then I have Indigo Ridge by Daphne Perry. This is one that I haven't read either, but I am very excited to get to this one because it sounds like throughout the course of this series it's a lot of like romance, but there's little bits of mystery kind of mixed in. So I think I could really enjoy that book. I just haven't quite made it to it yet. And then I have The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and I wanted the new cover of it, but this is what came in the mail, so it's what I have. I haven't read a ton of sports romances, so I kind of picked this one up to be potentially my first like real sports romance book. Then I have Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I haven't read this one yet. I want to finish the Chestnut Spring series, before diving into this one, but I think I would enjoy Wild Love more than the Chestnut Spring series because I loved Heartless and how he was a single parent, and that is what it sounds like a lot of the Rose Hill series is about, so I think I could really enjoy those. So then I have my Chestnut Spring stack here. I don't own all the books, but I've read the first 3. Powerless was my most recent read. I just finished that one last night. So then over here I have kind of my book of the month romance books. So I have Love on the Brain, Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I haven't read either of them, and I just don't know how I'm going to feel about them. So I keep going back and forth on these ones. But then I have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I've read Just for the Summer by her, and I absolutely loved it. So I want to continue reading more of her books in the future. And then I have The XX and The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I've read both of these. I thought they were cute. They were perfect little like Halloween rom-coms. And then I have This Spells Love by Kate Robb, and this is another one that I haven't read, but I'm saving this one and I want to read it next fall. I think that would be a perfect one for that. And then I have Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center. This is the author of The Bodyguard, and I randomly picked this up for Book of the Month, and I don't really know what it's about. I think at first I thought it was a lot more romance than it was, but I think maybe it's not entirely a romance. I don't exactly know. But this kind of bleeds into my like literary fiction kind of area, because then I have Adelaide by Genevieve Wheeler. I read this one and I thought it was a good book. I read it at a time in my life where I feel like it resonated with me a little bit more. And then I have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which I haven't read, and I'm a little bit scared to read really the rest of this section here because these are some thicker, a little bit heavier, I think, literary fiction. Then I have Peach Blossom Spring and Babel by R.F. Kuang, which I know so many people love that book, and it's just, it's really intimidating to me, so I'm not sure when I'm going to get to that, but I would love to read it at some point. And then I have Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey, and she has a book that just came out that I feel like is getting really popular, so I feel like I'm intrigued to go back and read this. But it was one that I picked up because it was like it sounded the most intriguing that month, but it wasn't one that I would normally reach out and grab. So then going down a shelf, this is my favorite shelf, like aesthetically. This is like my colorful, pretty romance shelf, and I just love the way it looks. Over in the corner here I have some kind of like holiday romance books that I've just kind of stuck over in the corner. So I have The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, which isn't necessarily like a holiday one, but I feel like I'm gonna read it around Halloween, so I kind of put it there. I haven't read that one yet. And then I have In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, which I read, and it's the only book I've read by Christina Lauren so far, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, like for a holiday romance, because I feel like sometimes those can get just too cheesy. I actually thought this one was pretty good. I have The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score, which I have not read yet, and then I have The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox, which I read, and I enjoyed that one. It was another that was cute, it was fun, it was quick, but it was, I feel like last year I read a few like Christmas novellas, and they were just a little too insta-love, a little too just cheesy, and this wasn't quite that, which was good. So then I have a little candle here with an M on it that one of my friends got me for Christmas one year, and it smells good, it's beautiful, it sits right here. And then I have a little stack of bookmarks. I have Love and Gelato, and I read this one a few years ago, and it was another one that I loved. It's like kind of a romance, but kind of not. It's got a lot of elements of like mystery and different things going on, but with like a subplot of romance, and it was a really good summer read, just real quick, easy. I feel like that's what I love in my summer like romance books. So then I have Love and Other Words and The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I haven't read either of these, but I'm planning on taking The Unhoneymooners with me on vacation this summer. And then I have Every Summer After and Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I've read both of these ones and didn't love either of them. They both have some things that I don't love about them, but I've heard her third book is better, so I feel like I might pick up that one and kind of see my thoughts on that as well. So then I have my Sarah Adams collection. I have the Cheat Sheet, the Rule Book, When in Rome, Practice Makes Perfect, Beg, Borrow, or Steal, and The Match. And I have read all of these except The Match that I just recently picked up. So definitely making my way through her backlist. I love her writing. I feel like when I want a romance book, her books have always just hit the spot. They're quick, fun, easy, and I just have loved the small town one the most so far. The sports ones, they were okay, not my typical thing, but I did love the small town aspect of the When in Rome series. And then I have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I haven't read this one, but I want to get to this one really soon. This is another one that I might take with me on vacation. So then I have my mostly Emily Henry stack here, but I have my new Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez on this stack as well. And I just thought it worked well with the colors of Emily Henry's books. And so of these, I've read the bottom three, and I haven't read Book Lover's Funny Story or Say You'll Remember Me. But Say You'll Remember Me is probably going to be pretty much next on my TBR because it's one of my most anticipated releases. So I'll be getting to that one soon. Alright, so moving on to this shelf. This shelf kind of started as like a YA fantasy shelf, but it's kind of more so just mostly paperback fantasy series. So over here I have the Poppy War trilogy, and I've only read the first book of that series. I want to reread it and then read the whole series pretty soon now that it's getting like popular again, but I really enjoyed the first one. I read that, and then I think I picked up Throne of Glass right after and definitely became a lot more invested in Throne of Glass. And then I have the Caraval trilogy, which I haven't read any of. I was going to read it last winter, and then I ended up reading Shadow and Bone instead, and so I think Caraval is going to be like a top priority this year. And then I have Once Upon a Broken Heart. I don't own the third one yet. I know it came out in paperback now, but I love the Barnes & Noble editions of it. I love the colors of them, but I want to read those after I read Caraval, so haven't gotten to those yet. Then I have Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I have read all of these. I really enjoyed them. I was worried because I read Six of Crows already that I wasn't going to like Shadow and Bone as much, but I love being back in the world, and I think because I spaced them out enough, I enjoyed both of her series so much so far. And I haven't read her final series in the Grishaverse, The King of Scars and Rule of Wolves, but I want to get to these pretty soon as well. So then I have the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy. I have read these, and I feel like they were like middle of the road. They were good. I love the concept of them, but I wanted more. And I feel like I'm really excited to pick up her new series that she has coming out. Like, it's mostly about Wrath, and you don't really get to hear about any of the other brothers, and the whole time I was like wanting to know more about the 7 brothers and the 7 deadly sins. Like, I wanted more of that aspect of it. And then I have my Powerless trilogy over here, and I have Powerful up front, and I'm currently reading Fearless right now, so I put it back on the shelf, but I'm working my way through those. Alright, so going down one more shelf here, I have some more. This one I feel like is more of a YA like fantasy shelf. Vicious and Vengeful, which I love this series, and I feel like I don't hear enough people talk about it. I will always recommend this series. I feel like it's fantasy, but it's not like outlandish fantasy. It's like a realistic fantasy, if that makes any sort of sense. And it's more of an urban fantasy that I don't normally enjoy, but I think she did it very well. So then I have the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. I read the first book, and I really enjoyed it, and just haven't gotten into the other ones yet, but I do want to continue that series at some point as well. I'll probably have to reread the first one because I don't really remember anything that happened, because that was one of the first books that I read when I got back into reading. But then I have, next to that, I have some books that I read back in like middle school and high school. So I have the second and third book in the Matched trilogy. I read the first one for school one year, and then I enjoyed it, so I like bought the second and third and read those, and never bought the first one. So at some point I need to get that, but I don't remember a ton about them. I feel like in my head they remind me of, I have one shelf down, I have the Ugly series that I read, and I feel like they're very similar concept. I feel like a lot of the YA like dystopian stuff kind of feels the same at a certain point. But then I have, not in order at all, the Percy Jackson series, and I read the first and second book of this, so eventually I want to do a reading vlog of reading this whole series, but I'm not sure when I'm going to get to that, but I think that would be a fun thing to do. So then I have my Hunger Games books. I would love to get hardcovers of all of these as well, just to match, because I love the Hunger Games. I read the first two, I know, when I was in middle school, and then I don't know if I ever finished the third one, but I recently reread those, and then just this year I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping, and I loved both of those ones so much. Like, they were both 5-star reads. So then I have a manga of Sailor Moon that I have read. I didn't love it because I just couldn't get into the concept of a manga. Like, I don't know. Like, I like the concept of the pictures, but I feel like my brain struggles to comprehend like where to start reading all the words, because I feel like so much is happening at once. So probably not going to continue that, but growing up I used to watch Sailor Moon, so I thought it'd be fun to try that out. My brother reads a lot of manga, so he recommended me to try Sailor Moon, but don't think I'm going to get into it. So then I have my Shatter Me stack, and I don't know, I didn't love Shatter Me. I feel like it was honestly a bit overhyped in my opinion, but I didn't hate it. It was fine. I feel like there was a lot of books to get through, and it just wasn't my favorite. I think it would be good for me if I was younger, but I read it just a couple years ago, and so I feel like middle school me would have devoured the books, but now there's just so many better series. These are all of my hardcover like mystery thrillers. Every single one of them is from Book of the Month. I have always gravitated towards their mystery thrillers because I feel like fantasy, there's a lot of series. I feel like I hear a lot about that online, but Book of the Month was a good way for me to find new authors. So some of these I've read, some of them I haven't, because I just wanted to have a backlog of books in case I wanted to be in the mood for like a mystery. So I have The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. I've read one book by her. It was Then She Was Gone, and it was okay, but I didn't love it. It was a bit eh. And then I have When I'm Dead by Hannah Morrissey. I haven't read that one. I have None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This one I'm actually intrigued by. I feel like that one's concept is interesting. Dark Corners by Megan Golden. I haven't read that one. The Lies I Tell by Julie Clark I have read. Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney I've read. I love this book. This has been one of my favorite like mystery thriller books. Between this and Never Lie by Freida McFadden are probably my top two. I have The Paris Apartment and The Guest List by Lucy Foley. These ones, I didn't love them. I like The Guest List better than The Paris Apartment, but they were fast-paced whodunit mysteries, and sometimes those are just what I'm in the mood for. I have The Collective by Allison Galen. I haven't read this one, don't know anything about it. The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This one I'm actually really intrigued by, and I think it'd be a fun one to read in summer. Like, I don't know, I feel like the cover of it screams like a summer thunderstorm. The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I've read this one, and The Silent Patient was better, but this one wasn't bad. No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall. I read this one. It didn't really stand out. Everything We Didn't Say by Nicole Bart. Haven't read. Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. I haven't read. You're Invited by Amanda Jayatisa. I haven't read. Silent Patient I have read. I did enjoy this one, so this is probably another one that's in like my top 5 mystery books. The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Buchanan. I'm probably not saying that right, but I read this one. I didn't love it, but it wasn't bad. I just feel like it didn't stand out. The last thing he told me, this was my first book of the month book that I got, and it wasn't bad. It definitely read like a movie. Like, I feel like it was very visual. Like, I pictured everything that was happening. But after reading other ones, this one doesn't quite hold up as well. Not a Happy Family by Sherry Lapina. I read this one. I feel like it kind of fell in the same category as The Paris Apartment. It was good. It wasn't the best. The Family Game by Catherine Steadman. I haven't read this one, but I want to get to it. The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. I haven't read this one yet either. And then I have Home Before Dark and Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. These are ones that I feel like I put on my TBR every fall, and at some point I am actually going to read them. And then I have Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. And I haven't read that one yet either. So then on the bottom shelf here, I have kind of a continuation of some of my boxed sets and then some random books as well. So I have Columbine, which I read for school one year, and then I have The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I went back and forth about keeping this one or not. I read it and I didn't love it, but I feel like it's one that I want to keep still. I have a little poetry book, and then I have some like YA, not even YA, like middle grade historical fiction books. The Boy in the Wooden Box, Someone Named Ava, and Number the Stars. But then I have my Cassandra Clare box set that I got it was on a really good sale, so I need to read it at some point, but it's a big commitment, and so I'm gonna wait till I graduate from my master's program to get to that. And then I have Twilight. I've read the first 2 books in that series. I've never read the 3rd and 4th. I might try to do again another like Twilight reading vlog. So then I have Life as We Knew It. That's a little box set that I read the first book when I was in middle school and remember enjoying it, so I got the box set of it one year. I have a little dictionary, and then I have like my classic stack. Lord of the Flies, Old Yeller, Catcher in the Rye, Flowers for Algernon, To Kill a Mockingbird, 1984. I have biography about Hitler, and then I have a collection of like the Barnes & Noble classics, Into the Wild, Little Women, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and Great Expectations. I have read pretty much that entire stack. The only ones I haven't read are Lord of the Flies, Catcher in the Rye, and then The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and Great Expectations. But I have read a few of those, didn't love them. Not really a classic person, I don't know. Then the other bottom shelf is more box set, like YA books. I have my Harry Potter books that used to be on the top shelf, and they just took up too much space. So I brought them down here and gave Throne of Glass its moment to shine. I have the Selection series that I've never read, but I heard a lot of people loved it. So I picked it up and thought it could be one I enjoyed. The Ugly series, I've read all of those. The Maze Runner, I read the first one, enjoyed it, got the box set, haven't continued it. Monument 14 was one that I picked up around like when Hunger Games and Divergent, all of those were so popular, and never read it. Divergent was the same thing. I read the first one, loved it, so my family bought me the second and third ones, and I never read them. And then I have Found, Sent, and Sabotaged by Margaret Haddix. The last couple books on there, the books by Margaret Haddix, these ones I thought about getting rid of because I'm never going to reread them, but I loved this author growing up, and I remember in this like 2nd or 3rd grade we read The Shadow Children. I forget what the first book was called, but we read the first book in that series and I loved it, and I remember going through and reading the whole series. So then a couple years later those books came out and I just knew I had to get them, and I remember loving those as well. So I feel like Margaret Haddix has like a really special place in my heart because that was truly the first like dystopian books that I read were The Shadow Children, and it was all because my 3rd grade teacher read that for us, and she was the same teacher that my brother had 3 years earlier, and she read the same book for him and he loved it. And then he ended up like growing up and we loved the Hunger Games together and we loved Harry Potter. Like she was kind of our introduction to like dystopian and to fantasy books, and so those books will always have a little special place in my heart. Alright, so we can kind of see it, but I have a couple books here. I have a few hardcover books on my TBR and a couple new purchases. So I have A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I have Light Lark by Alex Astor. I just recently bought Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and I just bought Night Weaver by R.M. Gray. So those are some books here, and then continuing down here I have some more. Again, a lot of them are first books in like fantasy series. So I have The Cruel Prince, The Gracier, Scythe, Beasts of Prey, The Curse of Saints, Guild, Flamecaster, Sisters of Sword and Song, Red Rising, The Prison Healer, The Bridge Kingdom, and then I have the first two books in the Emily Wilde series. Those are all the books on my shelves and my TBR. So I didn't exactly count them, but I know when I did my bookshelf, like redoing it, it was pretty even of like 115 books that I've read and like 100 books that I haven't. So pretty even, and I have been really good about not buying too many new books. The ones that I just bought, I bought because my brother was in town, and so we were going to a bunch of different bookstores and I had a gift card. So I bought those, but I don't really plan on buying too many books anytime soon. I might pick up a couple with the Amazon book sale, but there's only I think 2 on my radar that if they go on sale, I'm gonna pick them up. But then I want to go through the books that I am unhauling. Some of them are ones that I had bought from school, some are like duplicate copies, some are ones that I just know I'm never gonna read or didn't love, and so I know I'm never gonna reread it. So I have Euphrates. This was a book I had to have for school. Same with Sophocles, The Three Theban Plays. Never gonna read those again. Then I have duplicate copies of Uglies and Pretties. I got the boxed set, and it ended up being cheaper to buy the box set to get the last 2 books than to just buy the last 2 books. So that's what I did. And I kind of like the newer covers of them better anyway. I have Half a Life by Darren Strauss, another one I read for school one year. Confessions of the Sullivan Sisters. This was a book I read in middle school that realistically I'm never going to read again. Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I read this one and just didn't love it. Half Sick of Shadows, another one I read and just didn't love. It was like a King Arthur retelling and just not enough fantasy. Like, I don't know. It was just kind of boring. The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I did not really enjoy that one at all. And Darling Girl by Liz Michalski. This is like a Peter Pan retelling that I just realistically don't think I'm ever gonna read. And then I have Along for the Ride by Sarah Dessen. Just Listen by Sarah Dessen. I read one of them and not the other when I was growing up, but realistically I don't think I'm gonna read them again. But I was thinking about how I feel like she had a chokehold on at least my school growing up. I feel like everyone was constantly like fighting over checking out her books from the library, and that's why I think I ended up buying them, was because I got tired of like having to wait for them. And I haven't heard like anything about her. I don't even know if her books are sold in stores still. The Boy Who Dared. This is, I got a lot of books from like the Scholastic book orders growing up. That used to be, there was always one around my birthday, and so my mom would always let me pick out a few books, and then she would like go through them and buy books for my birthday. So that was always fun, but I ended up with so many books that I just realistically am not going to read. So I have Distant Waters, which is like about the Titanic, A Stolen Life, The Breadwinner. I went through like a historical fiction phase one year, I guess. The Maze Runner, this is a duplicate copy. The Seer of Shadows. never read that one. A Curse Dark as Gold, never read it. Again, another one I just got from Scholastic. WTF, I bought this in high school and just don't think I'm ever gonna read it. Another one I picked up when I was trying to get into more mature books is Cage the Stars and Falling Home. Another one I picked up when I was trying to get into more mature books in high school, and I just don't think I'm gonna ever read it. The Hate List. This was one I picked up and I read some of it. I may have read all of it. But it was from high school, and so those are all of the books on my shelves and how I kind of have them organized. Like I said, it's not exactly how I want them, but I think in order for me to do it exactly how I want to, I'd have to have a separate shelf at some point for, like, to better separate. I feel like it's, this shelf I'm happy with. This shelf has some kind of like random spots on there, but I'm not too upset by it, and I do like the way that it looks. Like I said, this is my favorite shelf aesthetically, and it's one that happens to be in the background of a lot of my videos. But yeah, if there's any books on here that I said I hadn't read and you read them and loved them, definitely let me know in the comments, because I love knowing like other people's thoughts. I feel like it motivates me to read books more. Or if there's any books that I said I was unhauling that you think I should read, let me know that too, and I will keep them and give them another shot. But I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I post videos every single week, and yeah, if there's any specific videos or any reading vlogs that you want to see, let me know. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!